What is going on? This is the Bleeding Burgundy podcast. It is the 20th of March already?
Yes,
Man.
sir.
And I'm your host, Jesse Martin. I'm here with my co-host, Keith Gray. What is going on, Keith?
Hey, same old, same old. What's today? Saturday?
I think so.
Doing nothing.
I lose
sitting at
track
home.
all the time.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just hanging out, doing nothing. So decided let's go ahead and do a show and keep it going.
Yep. This is our bar talk episode where we really don't have a structure in mind. We're just going to shoot the shit and, just talk about whatever's on our minds. We have a special guest with us, Nathan Coleman of Full Press Coverage. Nate, thanks for joining us. How you doing, man?
What's going on, gentlemen? Thank you for having me. Happy to talk some ball with you guys.
Yeah, man, we've been trying to get you on for a little while. I know our schedules haven't, coincided. I know you live on in a different time zone, so I'm glad we were able to get you on here. And we do have another guest coming on in a little while, Zeke Collins. You people probably know him as Haymaker Z on Twitter. He's always on there talking shit, but he'll be on with us in a few minutes. So you know what? Let's get right at it. Let's talk about these free agent signings. I think that's the big news around the park. We've had a couple of them. Nate, what's your overall take of these free agent signings we got?
Yeah, I think that's just what the doctor ordered, right? We had a lot of, we weren't sure going into it what we were going to do, but it seems like everyone wanted Curtis Samuel, and that's what we ended up doing. He's a perfect complement to Terry, and he's a guy who adds explosion to the offense. When you talk about today in the NFL, the key to success is explosive plays on offense and stopping them on defense. So I think Samuel is someone who does that. And I think William Jackson straight up is an upgrade over Darby. So you go from losing Darby, downgrade, and then you get an upgrade there. So I was pretty happy about that. And then of course, Fitzmagic. I know a lot of people have a lot of different stances on him, but I'm pretty excited about him in the sense that I know he can elevate the offense, and we know what he is, right? He's a stopgap. Yeah. There's no hiding it. There's no sugarcoating it. So I'm excited to see what happens. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Excited. But I'm tempering, that excitement. I mean, we've been here before. I've
noticed a little bit more excitement from you, or not necessarily excitement, but less trolling from Keith on Twitter lately. It's got to tell you something.
It's hard to troll when your team is making successful moves.
Yeah.
I've said that through the years. I mean, we've been through some, awful seasons. So to me, there was nothing to do but make fun of this team, make fun of the fans who still rah for this team. I built my whole Twitter based upon making fun of rah fans for, still rooting for the burgundy and gold till they're dead and cold, even when they lose. Like, fuck that. I'm mad as hell. You lost. I'm not going to praise people for losing. I want to praise people for winning. I want to become that fan that has that winning organization again. I want to know what that's like. And so, it's kind of hard to troll when your team is on the right track to do that. And I even said, I'll temper that, if we're making moves and these moves are making sense and, we're translating success, man, that's one way to shut a troll up.
You know what? You said it right. I get sick and tired of Patriots fans, but I want to be one so bad. Not necessarily root for that team, but I want to be one of those fans who are like, you know what? We got Super Bowls. Screw you guys. They act stuck up a little bit, at least Patriots fans that I know of that are around here, but they have every freaking right to be.
Listen, first of all, I travel to Massachusetts all the time, especially in the Boston area. And, I look at the people and I'd be like, damn, I wonder how y'all feeling having that many Super Bowls and that much success as fans. Like, it's got to feel good. And honestly, I'm not gonna hate them for walking around with their chest puffed out. Man, if our team was that successful, man, I'd be letting all the hair out, even down below too. Down below, the hair can come out. So, it is what it is. No one got that joke. It's fine though. But so, I would walk around like that too. And I would be stuck up. Why? Because my team wins. I'm rooting for a winning organization. And it's something that we haven't seen. And we got to sniff a little bit of success, last season, even though, again, that 7-9 record doesn't get me with lotion in one hand and sliced pickles in the other, but it still was on a track to succeeding, and I'm okay with that as long as we're on that right track. And that's where I see this free agency. I mean, we didn't make huge big name splashes. We just brought in a quarterback that has a huge personality, right? And we know that it's at least for 1 year. Then of course everyone's now on board with the Curtis Samuel, train. Great. I mean, this guy's going to do great for us as long as we can get him the ball. I had to ask questions about, Will Jackson. I didn't know much about him, to be honest. I mean, I don't pay attention to a lot of teams. So, I pay attention to what they're doing. And I, of course, know the star players, but, Will Jackson's not a guy that's, hitting ESPN, Sports Center all the time. So I'm not going to know a whole lot on that. So, that's where I come to look for guys like Nate and say, hey, what's going on with this? I'm not afraid. Let me know. So when we signed him, I honestly didn't know if that was an upgrade or not. People were telling me, and I'm like, oh, okay. But again, we've seen this. And so I'm tempering my expectations, because even though we're adding pieces that we were missing last season, I think, and we're going to get better success out of the 3 major guys that we brought in, we just got to be careful, because we still got that record to attend, and we still got, 2 tougher teams that we didn't play last season. So, it's one of those, let's put our balls on the table and let's see what we have.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good point too, because everyone talks about last season. There's no predictive quality from last season to this season. And if you really go and look into the season more, if you dissect each game that we won, each game that we lost, think about who we beat. And think about the quarterbacks that were playing for those teams. Like you're talking about Dalton, DiNucci, Finley. I mean, Big Ben, when he wasn't good, like which good quarterbacks did we beat? So there's no predictive value from last year to this year. So it's a fresh start just because we signed these free agents. It doesn't mean we're going to win 12 games, guys. So I would temper expectations. I mean, right now I'm sure we're probably projected for 9 wins or so, something like that, if I had to look at the books, but who knows? I mean, that it doesn't always materialize on the field. And like you said, like Washington has a history of doing this. So I'm hoping this is a year where it's kind of different. We've built the structure and culture around them where it's going to fit, but it just, take it easy, like you're saying.
And I would be perfectly okay with 9 wins straight out, to be honest with you, because
it's progression.
It's progress. And, me and Keith has said in the past that this is before, we knew what we were doing at quarterback, and the same could be true too. Now, expect not to make a huge jump this year, because we still, yes, we have Fitzpatrick for the year, but he's no barn burner. He's going to make things exciting, but we're adding the pieces that we need to add in the right way. They're doing it the right way. We're not used to this, Losing Darby was a little bit of a gut punch to me at first, because I wanted to bring him back. I didn't want to bring him back at $10 million a year, but I definitely wanted him to come back.
Well, sure, he was success. He played with some success. We didn't want to see that go, but guy decided to take the bag instead.
And Williams Jackson, the game that stood out to me is when we played Cincinnati. He had a pretty good game against Terry. I think Terry got him a couple times, but he stuck to Terry like glue. And that's what we need. And you don't hear his name mentioned all that much. But sometimes that's a good thing when it's coming to cornerbacks. He doesn't have a whole lot of interceptions. But when you're playing man to man and you're not throwing against him that much, you're not going to get those interceptions. You're not going to get those numbers. So even though a little bit like Keith, I don't know, I haven't studied him much, but I know he's a good player, and I know he's, from everything that I've heard, he's going to be an upgrade over Darby, and you couldn't ask for anything better than that. From what people have told me, he was the best cornerback on the market this year, so I'm definitely happy with that.
Well, he stated real quick. He stated a quote too that I had read, and I forget who tweeted it. And my fault. Some of these local beat writers, but actually it might have been Julie Donaldson. Anyways, it doesn't matter. He basically said, you can't grab interceptions if they're not thrown to your side of the field.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, okay, that's a fair point. But like I said, it wasn't something that I knew, how it I didn't know, when they first brought him in, I retweeted it, and then I just kind of waited to see what everyone else was doing and, what they were saying, and everyone was, super positive about it. So, like I said, you haven't seen me say, we're going back to the playoffs or anything like that. I have no idea, so I just want to see what these, guys can, what they can translate onto the field at this point.
Sure. I'd like to welcome in Zeke Collins. Everybody knows him as Haymaker Z on Twitter. What's going on, Zeke? How you doing, man?
Pretty good. What's happening, guys?
Nothing, man. We're just kind of just chilling, talking about these moves in free agency. What's your take on it?
It's always hard for me to I'm not quite as dialed in as some people are, obviously, but it's always hard for me, when you're thinking about off season with the team. I like to, after the draft, and see how things shake out after the draft. Then I think you kind of can evaluate it all together. But I get the Fitzpatrick signing for sure. Love the Jackson signing. They were too big. I know the media loved it, so that's a shocking thing around, in this town. You don't ever hear them. They're not usually giving us any love in that department. So it seems pretty good. I'm trusting what, it's year 2 of this group, man. I'm just heading in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. I think a lot of the fan base definitely feels the same way that you do. It's funny that you mentioned the media. PFF had us graded as I forget the
wins above replacement.
Yeah,
it's basically, you guys know that from baseball. It's just talking about how much value do they add to the team. And with our 3 or 4 moves, we basically tied the Patriots, who had like 14 or 15 free agents they added. By the way, they spent the most money in NFL history in guaranteed dollars.
They're signing people right and left, man. It's nuts. But that shows that right there shows you that the team is making the moves that they need to be made, man. And I think we should be happy for that as fans. I believe in numbers. I'm not like huge into analytics or anything like that. I think, Nate, you are, but I like it. I like it. I'm still, not expecting us to make a deep playoff run. I think we are closer to the Cowboys than the Cowboys fans might think we are, even though that Dak is back. I think our defense is 10 times better than theirs. And I think we're going to have a mediocre offense. And I my feelings is that should be okay, right? Having a better,
that would be a big jump, right? If you're going from terrible to mediocre, and people are really worried about the turnovers with Fitzpatrick. That's the number one thing I hear. And I understand that completely. But last year we ranked in the bottom 5 in turnovers. We gave the ball away so much. So to have someone who's aggressive, who can generate explosive plays, like think about our scoring drives last year. Think how methodical they are. It took forever for us to drive the ball down the field just to kick a field goal. If you have Fitzpatrick, who can generate explosive plays right away, and oh, by the way, now we have an upgraded skill group, we should be able to generate more points. I think you're right though. Like you're probably expecting about an average offense, and that's a big upgrade. And I would say this with defense too. It's really hard to predict defensive performance year to year. People try to do it. It's hard to do. So like, I wouldn't expect a top 5 defense next year. It's really hard to repeat and do that over and over. Just ask, the Jacksonville Jaguars when they had a good defense, or the Bears when they had a good defense, or the Broncos when they had a good defense. It's really hard to keep doing that. And that's why for us to operate at our ceiling, we need to score more points, play with the lead, and then we can utilize our pass rush to its fullest strength. That's what it's all about for me. So that's what I want to see, at least.
Oh man, I agree 100%. That's so spot on.
Yeah, and add in Fitzpatrick, which he's known to push the ball down the field, and then another dynamic receiver in Curtis Samuel. All I want is for Turner to use him right. He needs to use him right. We have multiple players that can play multiple positions. You can do a lot with this offense, and confusing defenses, that's just the way to go to score points. And I think that we can do that. Keith.
I was going to
say something.
Yeah, Nate, not to switch topics, but to kind of keep it more to the quarterback aspect. knowing that this is, Fitzpatrick signed a, 1-year deal, what do you see the plans in the draft at quarterback? Do you see that this was an ideal plan to have a vet run this season and go and get your guy in the draft, whoever that may be, to sit him, to potentially start him next year? What's your thought process on that?
Right. So a lot of people are taking victory laps on Twitter and on the internet for saying now they're not going to trade up. And to you, I would say, like, it's not very prophetic to say this team isn't going to trade up, because the whole NFL is risk adverse. Most teams aren't trading up because they're afraid to do it. Like, there's very few that are going to do it. So it's not exactly rocket science to say that, right? But I would say they're exploring every single option out there. They've talked to all of these teams. They have a pretty good idea of the market, but a lot can change between now and draft day. But they would be crazy to not be exploring every single option and looking for the best value out there. And if they find a deal they like, they'll absolutely trade up. But we're talking about less than 15%, something low like that. But you got to stay flexible with the draft. You shouldn't go into the draft with one player in mind or one position in mind. You should be open to value, and that's how you win. And that's what you have to do. And so I'm sure they've explored every option, but obviously they're not going to trade up to pick number one, but pick 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One of those, like, I'm sure they're looking at it, but I would say it's not that likely, but not because they signed Fitzpatrick. That doesn't prohibit them from doing anything.
Zeke, are these guys worth trading up for that's in the draft?
I don't think you really have to trade up in the draft to get a good quarterback. I mean, it's every year there's always somebody that's popping from the 3rd round and beyond. And it's not, and I guess if they like one and he starts to slide, teams can be aggressive, but I don't know. I think just sit tight and let the board come to them. That's how I'd feel most comfortable, but people may disagree.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, Zeke. I think I think there could be a few quarterbacks that Washington could look at and bring in Fitzpatrick. Quarterbacks, they used to sit for a year, 2, 3 all the time. That was the norm. Nowadays, you're expected to be NFL ready right now, and more times than not, it doesn't work.
Well, that's kind of on the last show that you and I actually agreed on was, rookie quarterback, in my opinion. I don't care if you get them in the 1st round. I don't care if they're pick number 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you should sit them for 2 years if you have the luxury to be able to do so. Back in the day, teams used to, it was, hey, when their longtime guy is, about to head out the door, all right, we got to think, a couple years from now, that's going to happen. Let's, draft our QB, we'll stash them, and then boom, 2-3 years later, here they come. And that used to be the way of doing things. Which would kind of lead to my next question, and it can, pretty much, go to all 3 of you. But, looking at, how it was in 2012, where Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III were, immediate, 1 and 2s, I guess I feel like in this draft, we don't have immediate 1 and 2s. We have an immediate 1, and then really anyone else can fall about anywhere. I mean, I'm just not seeing the hype around these QBs in this draft the way that it was, back in, 2012. And I only mentioned 2012 just because we as fans experienced that. So, it's really the only thing that I paid attention to was there was just so much hype around those 2 individuals. And I'm not feeling like we're getting that from, except for Trevor Lawrence. And then everyone else is like, well, okay, if he's available, we'll grab him, type of deal. And I guess that's where my concern is our QB in this draft, or is he not? Like, what's going on? So, Nate, I'll leave that open for you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know me. I'm kind of a sicko with studying these draft classes. And I guess the reason I do is I'm in like 9 or 10 of these dynasty football leagues where we have like 50 guys on our roster. So I'm looking at the college way in the future of this. But I would say really confidently that this is the best quarterback class I've seen in 5 or 6 years. Now, that doesn't mean anything, right? Yeah, collectively. That doesn't mean anything. But I guess the caveat to that would be, you don't want to take a quarterback after round one ever. And the reason I say that, and I know I've seen that a lot on Twitter, and I understand the thinking, like, let's get a project quarterback in round 2 or 3 and let them sit for 3 or 4 years, and then maybe we'll have something. And I've done a lot of research on this because I was curious about it too. I always thought that, but since like the last 2 decades, there have been 6 quarterbacks who have been franchise quarterbacks taken after round 1. There's another 216 that totally bust. So you're talking about less than a 3% chance of getting a franchise quarterback. So if I had to choose between a quarterback or any other position that I feel, has a better chance of hitting, I'm going to roll with that. And that's in 2020. Like, a lot has changed too, but yeah, this class is tremendous though. Any of the top 4 I'd be excited about, but they're going to go back to back to back probably. So you're looking at, you got to have a, one of the first 5 picks if you're lucky. And I think the teams up there want to trade back. The Bengals want to trade back. The Falcons could want to trade back. The Dolphins absolutely want to trade back. So that's what you're going to need. And if you're talking about price, it's going to be 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and some change. So it's going to be a lot. And do you really want to push the chips in? Are you a player away from being a Super Bowl contender would be the question. And I don't think we are. But if there's a good value and you got to take it, it's all about value. It's okay to push the chips in if you get a good deal and you want to like strike while the iron is hot, but it really just depends. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I like the quarterbacks that are in the first round, at least the top 4. I think most of y'all know my feelings with the other 2, as far as Trask and Mac Jones. I'm not high on at all. If the opportunity, is there to take a Trey Lance without killing yourself, I would say do it, but I still want him to sit for a year. I think Trevor Lawrence is the only quarterback that I would put money on that will, succeed to a very, very high level. Wilson is, he had one really, really, really good year, but he was a 4 or 5 year starter at BYU. I think his chances are good, but I don't think we have a chance in hell to even, trade up to get him. I do believe it's possible to find a decent quarterbacks in rounds 2 or later. The chances aren't good. But I also think it's all about the development and how much does your coaching staff put the time and the work into developing these guys. And most of these coaches are on short leashes, especially with the coaches that, they just don't have time to put that development into it. You know what I mean? Most coaches are in the last 3 to 5 years, period. And sometimes not even that long. So you need to get that quarterback right, like that for the first time. So that's why I see a lot of quarterbacks going in the first round, and a lot of them are overdrafted. They definitely are, but it's all about the opportunity. The NFL stands for not for long. So you got to do whatever you can to win games and to be successful. I think Ron Rivera is in a very good position that I don't think his leash is that long at all. I think he's going to is given the proper time to build. I mean, look at what he's already done in the past, one season and then start of an off season. I think he's doing a pretty good job. And I think if Daniel Snyder, after 20 plus years, is maybe smarting up just a little bit, giving him the reins to the kingdom, giving him those at least 5 years.
Well, my man's a little busy right now.
What's that?
My man's a little busy getting investigated right now. That's why.
Yeah. Well, you got to have time to be able to develop these guys. Coaches had times back then. They don't have time anymore. Zeke, what do you think?
No, I mean, you're right. They don't. It's pretty much you got to win now. I think you see, not to jump away from from Washington, but talking about New England earlier and how aggressive they are in free agency. Bill is feeling that heat from Brady going to Tampa and winning another ring.
You're right about that.
That's what that's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a win now league. So I like where they're at. I mean, I'm not like oh man, Taylor, Taylor's the guy, blah, blah, blah. But I do like that at least he's going to have a chance to compete and see if he's for real. Because if he's for real and he can even get close to how he played in that playoff game, that would be nice. But I don't think they feel confident about that. And they'll probably draft one, but I don't think it's going to be early. It might be like a developmental type that Scott's in love with. So who knows?
It has to do with, especially with the later on in the draft, they got to fit too. One quarterback that Keith knows that I love, that I think would fit and that needs, at least 1 year, possibly 2 years of season is a Kellen Mond. I think he could, but getting them in the first or second round, that might be a little bit rich for a developmental guy. But being that we have 2 third-round picks, pick somebody like that. There's another, was it Sam Mills? I think, Nate, is that right?
Yeah, Davis Mills.
Davis Mills.
Stanford.
That, somebody picked in the 3rd or 4th round that potentially could be. You always want to find that franchise quarterback, and I'm of the mindset where you should pick a quarterback every year, no matter what, even if it's in the 6th or 7th round, whether it's practice for the practice squad or not. I know a lot of people are getting a little bit more higher on Mond, and some people are even saying that he could go as early as the 2nd round. I don't think so. That's too rich for me, but you never go. You might be able to hit, lightning in the bottle with one of these guys. You just don't know. I think it's fit, have time to develop him. And I think the staff does have that time to be able to develop him. And next year, if we get an earlier draft pick and there's another quarterback in there, well, then you didn't spend all that, you didn't necessarily waste, a high draft pick on a guy. If you like somebody else, don't worry about feelings. I know a lot of people say, well, you gave Heineke this contract. If you pick somebody, or if you're drafting somebody, you're not going to, let me back up. People say that we're not going to draft a quarterback because we signed Fitzpatrick, because we signed Heineke, and because we have Allen. Heineke and Allen are cuttable. Plain and simple.
Well, I think it's clear as day that we're going to go 3 quarterback. I think you have to.
You absolutely have to.
I don't think Kyle Allen makes it unless he's being put on practice squad, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they would cut him potentially loose and give him an opportunity to be a QB2 on another team, potentially. I think you have a shot here where, your QB1 is obviously Fitz, your QB2 is Heineke, and that's debatable. It could be Allen, and Heineke could be the guy to go. I mean, who knows? But
I think Fitz and Heineke are very similar players.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Well, I don't think you sign Heineke to a 2-year deal to just let him go. I think he's your QB.
But if it came to it, I was just putting that out there.
No, I know. Cuttable. No, I know. It's just I see the same things that the fans are saying too. And at the end of the day, I think you're gonna have a you're gonna have a 3 quarterback roster. And Heineke's going to be your 2, and then if they draft a rookie, that rookie is going to be the 3, and I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what you do is you still have to determine that following year, depending on where you're at. Is Fitzpatrick resignable? Because now you have your rookie who you actually want to progress. I don't know. I don't know how those types of things work out. For me, it's just really difficult to be 100% excited about this year when I know there's so many questions for next year.
Sure.
And those so many questions for next year, or the following season. What are we doing? And maybe that gets answered in the draft. Maybe, we draft, our rookie, and maybe he becomes the starter. Maybe Heineke starts. And then if Heineke doesn't do well, then, now we're going to, throw our 2nd-year guy in. All of that is possible, but I guess that's where I'm reserving my excitement, because I want to see future. I don't want to see what we're doing this year.
Yeah.
Just that. And I don't want to have to guess.
Yeah.
And maybe this draft will answer, more questions to that, and will kind of give us a little bit more insight on what the team feels that we should be doing long-term, at that quarterback position. What do you think, Zeke?
I had it muted, my bad. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of, like I said earlier, there's a lot of time left. And after the draft, what they do there, as they start to get into training camp and stuff, we'll have an idea of where it's going. But I would say they're probably most definitely going to at least draft one. And I just don't know where. I just hope it's not. If there is a run on quarterbacks early, that allows, some elite players to just keep falling down the board.
True.
So I let all those quarterbacks go, and we sit tight, and I don't know where we'd go with it. Maybe offensive line, depending upon, but that could be possible.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question to Nate, since he's very knowledgeable in the college aspect. I mean, what prospects do we have in 2022 if we're not seeing our guy, or just he's not attainable in the draft to get? What's out there in 2022 that could give us a shot?
Yeah, I think that's the question, right? So the big thing I would say is there's always a guy, it seems like every year, that comes out of nowhere.
Yep.
Yeah, this year was Zach Wilson. You had Joe Burrow do that the year before. Even Baker Mayfield was kind of like that. He came out of nowhere. But the other thing to remember is, like, the season hasn't started yet in college football. So NFL scouts and NFL teams, they grade heavily on the last year. And I actually think that's a mistake in a lot of ways, but they grade heavily on the last year. So we don't know what's going to happen, but everyone's saying it's a bad class. And my answer to that is, like, you don't know that.
Yeah.
That's not true. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few guys I really like that I think are going to be top 5 picks, but it won't be as good as this class, just as far as, like, prospects so far. Like, I think there's going to be probably 4 quarterbacks taken in round 1, just from what I've seen, but things could change in a hurry. So it's all about value, though. I know, like, we roll our eyes to hear, like, best player available value, but that is how you, yeah, I mean, that's
the play.
Right. And I would say, like, you guys were talking about the Patriots a lot, like, and this is what I want. I want to build a dynasty. That is my goal. That's all I care about. Like, as a fan, you can root for the team however you want. For me, like, I get excited about building a dynasty. And I know it sounds crazy because we haven't even won a playoff game, but that should be the goal. And I guarantee you that's what Revere is telling everyone else. We want to win a championship. So, and then when we're talking about pick 19, there's a lot of things that could happen, but, like, I would say, like, don't go into it with, like, one player in mind. You have to be flexible. I think my ideal scenario would be for Mac Jones to somehow fall to 19 and then trade down from there if Jones is available, because the Bears are picking right behind us. You have the Steelers, you have the Saints. There's a lot of teams behind us that want a quarterback that maybe really like him. And we could get some more picks, maybe a second rounder or a third rounder in the future, and build up from there. Cause there's still some.
My keys are inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Hold up.
You're good.
Nate, I saw you put that out on Twitter, and I agree with you 100%. I am all about trading back at 19. We are, it's almost in a no man's land. I know a lot of people are throwing out Darasol as an offensive tackle option. I was perfectly content with what Lucas did last year. I'm perfectly okay with that. And if we can, I want to complete this defense is what I want to do. Okay. I want to find no matter if we stay at 19 or if we trade back a little bit, but I want to complete the defense and pick the best player available at a position of need that fits the value of where we're picking at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Pretty much. I don't care if the best player on the board could be at a position, could be at defensive line. Why pick him? We don't need him, but there's other positional, other players on the board that have that value of that pick. And that's what, I mean, we need a safety. We desperately need linebackers. We need multiple linebackers, and there's multiple linebackers in that the end of round two range that we could easily get. I want 2 linebackers out of this draft if we don't pick one up in free agency. And there's starters all over the board in round 1 and round 2.
Just breaking news, guys, which isn't really even breaking. It happened 40-50 minutes ago, but Galladay signed with the Giants.
Oh, yes, saw that.
You did? Okay.
Saw that, yeah.
Like
yeah.
18 million per year.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's big money.
I take back the breaking news. It wasn't really breaking. I just
but
first
hell,
I saw.
Hey, that's why we signed. That's why we signed William Jackson, maybe. That's why we signed William Jackson.
And today was the first time where I finally cut out, because I had the alerts going with Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, and I was like, all right, I'll do Josina too. And I don't know what it is, man, but those three, like the minute one, it's like 30 seconds later, here comes the other, and then 30 seconds later, here comes the other. And I dealt with that the first couple nights because I'm like, somebody's gonna say something different, but they never did.
No.
And so today I was like, all right, I've had enough of these guys. I don't want to know what's going on. Like,
well, I'm with you though. I hate I'm they break the news. Good for them. That's awesome. Yeah. I hate to hear like Twitter reporters that just copy and paste whatever they said and just put it on their tweet. Like,
oh, they're out there.
Just at least give me some analysis or something, give me your take. Let me tell me something I don't know. I don't want to sound like arrogant, but I want to learn. That's why I'm on Twitter most of the time. And the other time is just talking shit.
I don't even watch ESPN
learning
no
on
more.
Twitter.
It's true though, man. Like sometimes I guess it depends who you follow. I guess I should add. Yeah.
It's a complete shit show most days.
Yeah. And I learned a lot of shit.
Well, I will say before we hop off that topic, I knew that I wasn't going to get the info on the Curtis Samuel signing, but I'll definitely show the muscle that I put it out there and was the first to do it, that we were even going after him. That was for sure. And then it was literally 3 minutes later, another account that I'm going to just chill with for now, because I don't really see there's any purpose of having any back and forth at the moment, went ahead and pretty much tweeted the same thing I did. And I was like, oh, come on, man.
Copy paste report.
Listen, and I'm like, listen, all right, check mark, settle down. Let me have my shine, okay? I get that I'm a nobody that sits on the couch over here, but man, let me have my shine. But I was pretty confident in that signing. It's just I had to be real careful with the things that I was saying. And then the minute that it was signed, I was like, yes, 1-0. I'm done. I'm not doing this caca shit for the rest of the year. I'm happy with the way the things are. So the caca is out the door. And maybe I'm done with it next year.
Retiring the jersey.
Yeah, it's retired. Maybe next year I'll bring back the hootie hoo. We'll figure it out. But I'm done with all of that. I messaged everybody and said, man, there's too many people. My DMs, the minute I said anything about Curtis Samuel, I've never seen my DMs explode the way that they did. But like I said, I will gloat. I was the first to put it out there, and people need to start fucking recognizing me. That's all I'm going to say. I didn't say that he was getting signed though. And I knew that I wasn't going to know that because, the bigger guys, they're going to get that information, and I don't get contract information either. That's more of Adam Schefter. That's more of the bigger guys. They're the ones who are actually talking to agents. I'm getting fucking elephant ear information from 8 different people by the time it gets to me. So it is what it is. But anyways, go ahead, carry on. I know
I want to stick with linebackers since it's such a huge need right now. I think it's our number one need overall. Zeke, I'll start with you. What do you want to see us do at linebacker, whether it's any free agents that are still out there or some of these top linebackers that are in the draft that are coming out that are monsters?
I mean, the draft seems like a good way to go, right? I mean, if your talent scouts are on it and, you get the guy you want who's going to excel in your defense, they definitely need some speed there, a little more speed there. But, I mean, I'm not as, you guys are way more up to date on that kind of stuff than I am. I'm kind of more like a casual fan at the moment, not like getting all crazy into who's available, who's not available, and all, just kind of riding the wave, I guess. But I know we need some speed at the linebacker core. Where that comes from, free agents, I don't know. Draft. They've signed one linebacker, right?
Yeah, David Mayo, but
from the Giants.
more
Yeah,
I'm getting that guy's jersey, by the way.
Your mayonnaise jersey.
Yeah, Miracle
That's
Whip, baby.
exactly.
Nate, what do you what do you want us to do? What do you think KJ Wright's a viable option?
Yeah. So with linebacker, and you talked about this before, it's really low on the positional value. Like it's probably 9th or 10th most important position in the league. That doesn't mean it's not a major need for us, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't address it, and probably early in the draft. But I think people like if you're changing your tune on who to draft at 19 because of what we've done in free agency, that's a bad process, right? That's not fault. You were talking about value before. If you want a linebacker now, but you didn't want a linebacker before, that would tell me like your process is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Wright, Wright would be a fine addition. He's a veteran, and they went that route last year with Davis. But another guy I like is Eric Wilson. He's a linebacker on the Vikings. He led the Vikings in tackles last year. He was tied for the league lead among linebackers and interceptions. He had a lot of passes defended, and he's also a really good special teams player. So that would be a good like depth signing, and he can play all 3 linebacker positions. So Eric Wilson's a guy I'm interested in. I think he would be really cheap. You're talking about like 1 year for $5 million, something like that.
Okay.
But if you're talking about the draft, I would hate to take a linebacker at pick 19. I think that would be a terrible, just bad process take. But I understand a lot of people are going that direction. But you're giving up. It's all about opportunity cost, right? And you're giving up a premium like prospect for a linebacker when the draft is really deep with linebacker. It's a good class, and it gets deep right around, like you said, right around the end of round 1 into day 2. So optimally, I'd like to trade back and then look at linebacker probably in the 2nd round or 3rd round. But a lot of people are really into Xavier Collins, who's awesome. He's a really good prospect. Don't get me wrong. I love him, but I'm not taking a linebacker at pick 19 when you could potentially be getting like a franchise offensive tackle or a game breaking wide receiver, or the cornerback 1 or 2 could fall to us. If it just so happens that Surtain or Farley or Horn are there, I understand we just signed a cornerback, but that's what the Bucs did. They continued to draft cornerbacks in the top 4 rounds. The past 3 years, they've drafted 7 cornerbacks because it's a passing league, and that's a primary like key position. So
then we can move Fuller to free safety.
Listen, it's a position. It's a position that we're constantly chasing every year.
Yeah.
Sure. So I have no issue with drafting a cornerback. Like that's to me, a lockdown cornerback is so scarce in the NFL. There's maybe only 3 or 4 like lockdown cornerbacks that I can think of. So for me, it's right up there with offensive tackle as far as like important positions. It's maybe number 2 or number 3 in the league. But I'm not taking a linebacker at pick 19. It's a bad process. And I've posted that a lot, and people get really angry, and they're like, have you seen, I've watched this prospect. And I'm like, that's awesome. What you've watched is incredibly subjective. You know, like you could watch a prospect and say, this guy's the best player since Ray Lewis. And I could watch him and say, he's okay. And like, who's right about it? You know, it's a bad process.
Watching highlights. And the thing about highlights is they're not showing the lowlights, they're showing the good plays.
And that, so I know like I'm an analytics nerd guy, blah, 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 but I watch film too, but I want as much information as possible so I can add context and paint a picture. And on top of that, like I'm not arrogant enough where I just watch film on a guy and I give you like my rankings and say, this is who's the best player. This is the next best player, because I feel like that's arrogant and it's so subjective. You need to cross-check your work with other trusted experts like Dane Brugler or whoever you like. You cross-check your work, make sure you're right about it, and then go back and look at the numbers and make sure like what you're seeing actually manifests itself on the field. And that's what I do. I try to mesh the two, and I feel like it's helped me be a lot more objective. But it's hard to be objective, and Keith will tell you this. It's hard to be objective and be a fan. Because as a fan, it's kind of tribalistic. You want to root for your team no matter what, and whatever players on your team is underrated and you have a chip on your shoulder. But like ultimately, it's all about making the right decisions and being optimal with your process.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's just like the dream scenario that you brought up, Nate, is somebody wanting a Mac Jones. Which I just don't see how he can go in the first. Anyways, that's besides the point. That's me. I'm not a fan of Mac Jones.
He's gonna go,
but
I promise.
He's gonna go. Yeah.
If someone wants to grab him at 19, and we can move back, pick up an extra 3rd or 4th round pick, even if it's next year or whatever, and to move back. I know you got to know that both JDR and Ron Rivera, they want that middle linebacker. They want that quarterback on the field. And I do believe wholeheartedly there's many linebackers in this draft that could be that type of player. I wouldn't hate getting one at 19. I wouldn't hate it, but I do see like I said before, 19 is kind of no man's land. The value starts getting very shaky around that area. And these quarterbacks that are going to be taken early in the draft is going to have a lot to play with, because you're right. Somebody could fall. We see it every single draft. Somebody that we think that's going in the top 10, top 12, always fall back to 15, 16, 17. It happened with John Allen. And I think it even happened with Daron Payne. They fell into our laps. Something like that could happen to us, or somebody that another team values a lot that could happen to, and they'd want to come up to 19 and get it. That'd be fine. I'd go back. I'd trade back 26, 27, 20, and you're still going to get one of those top linebackers. We got to address linebacker early. I think linebacker later on in the draft starts getting a little bit shaky. One that actually I do like is Patty Fisher, Northwestern. I think we can get in I think probably the 6th or 7th round maybe, and he could help out. But other than that, they're all going to be in that late first, early second round range. But there's many of them. I'm surprised we haven't signed one already. I'm surprised. I know Levante David got franchise tagged but before the free agency started, but it shocks me. And Mayo just doesn't put lotion in my hand, like Keith likes to say. All right, so moving on from linebacker, I think we still need a boundary receiver. Nate, I want to come back to you. What options are there?
Yeah, so this is a really deep class at receiver, and it's especially deep at slot receiver more than outside receivers. But I mean, at 19, the pick everyone's going to talk about is Rashad Bateman. Some people don't like him. For me, he's probably the easiest evaluation I've done as a receiver. He's a slam dunk. Every box you could check as a receiver, he checks it. So the biggest driver of success in the NFL for a receiver is draft capital, and that's day one, day two. You have a much better chance of succeeding, and then it's breakout age. When do they perform in college? Do they have production when they're a freshman or a sophomore, or do they wait till their senior year to beat up on guys who are younger than them and less mature than they are? And that's so predictive in the NFL.
Good point.
Yeah, and
I never thought of that.
Right. It's not like people hear breakout age and they're like, that's stupid. I don't believe in that. And I totally understand it, but the fact is a lot of NFL teams do, and they do care about that, because if you're 18, like Rondale Moore, and you're beating up in the Big Ten on defensive backs who are 20, 21 as a freshman, think about what you're going to do as a first year player in the pros. It's predictive. It makes a lot of sense. And that applies to any position, to be honest. Like, you want a player to produce at a younger age. So Rashad Bateman has like above 90th percentile breakout age. His production is above 90th percentile. Like, he just checks every single box. And then on top of that, the only question I had about him was what type of athlete he is, because I can't have a guy running above like a 4.5. I mean, he's 6'2". So like the big thing with receivers, like the bigger you are, it's okay to run a little bit slower because you're still a good athlete when you're that big. But if he ran a alleged 4.39 and you can adjust that up to like a 4.45, that's still excellent for being 6'2", 210 pounds. That's phenomenal, actually. So he checks every box. I've seen a few people who are like, he shouldn't go in round one, or he's a bad pick. I mean, if he's there, he's a slam dunk to me. And I've talked about him a lot, but he's probably my favorite. There's a chance Waddle could fall or Devontae Smith could fall, and they're intriguing too. But I actually think Bateman is safer than both of them because he checks every box, and Waddle and Smith don't. And even though they're awesome too, they're really good prospects, but that's the guys I'm worried about. And then round two, like, I love Rondale Moore and I love Elijah Moore. Those are my two favorites. Both slot receivers, both really explosive players, and both were really productive at a young age. I mean, Elijah Moore was producing well playing with AJ Brown and DK Metcalf, and he was still getting receiving yards and receptions. That's huge for me. And Rondale Moore has the best freshman season in NCAA history. He had over 1,500 all-purpose yards as a freshman. I mean, that's phenomenal. Damn. So those are two guys I really like.
Keith and Zeke, as goes for you guys, what do you see us doing with, or not us, but Turner doing with Curtis Samuel? I mean, just my thoughts. I think he is a perfect slot / gadget type player. What do you guys think he can play on the outside?
Go ahead, Zeke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I mean, you know, you think about how Turner used McCaffrey, and I'm not trying to draw parallels there. I'm just saying, you know, he can line up in the backfield and, you know, be a receiving. You saw what he did with McKissick last year, how the offense, you know, like the big plays he was able to generate just from simple little, you know, check downs that, you know, he's explosive and makes 5-6 yards out of something that, you know, shouldn't have even got 2. Yeah. So I like it. I mean, but I'm not sure, like, I don't know if they'll have a specific spot for him. He'll probably be lining up all over the field, trying to exploit, you know, matchups.
So he's considered to be our slot guy, right? This is why we brought him in.
I would think so. Yeah.
So, yeah, I would think. Yeah.
So he's our slot speed guy. I mean, obviously he's going to be stretching the field. I mean, you're going to, at some point, I think you're going to have to look at on the opposing defense, who we doubling, you know what I mean? And if we, you know, because again, we're still talking, we have a tight end who was pretty successful last season.
Yeah.
He ain't sexy. Okay. He's not, he's not a sexy superstar. He's no Zach Ertz. He's no, Travis Kelce, but guy still caught balls. Mm-hmm. He's still, raised numbers. So, I mean, there's some problems on the field for these defenses, in my opinion. And I think that you're going to have to decide and determine who you're covering at this point. You're not double on a tight end, but we got 2 fast receivers right now. What are we doing? And I mean, honestly, wasn't McLaurin kind of a slot receiver as well? I mean, he was catching a lot of balls in the middle of the field too, right?
His best is his crossing routes that he was so good at. Yeah, but that's going to open. I mean, he's good on the outside too. It's going to open him up a lot.
Yeah,
is bringing somebody else, then someone else with speed in. At that is going to help Terry so much. He's going to be freed up to do pretty much whatever he wants. Terry is a very polished receiver for as young as he is. He's got experience. He's got he looks like a 5-year vet out there running his routes. Terry. And now that they have someone that is going to take pressure off of him, I think he's going to get 1,200 yards each year easily, as long as we got a quarterback to throw him the ball. It's going to be interesting to see what Turner can do. Like I said earlier in the show, as long as they use him right, this offense, from what we saw last year, you kind of imagine it. It's pretty exciting. It really is. And if we can get, who knows what Kelvin Harmon's going to bring, or if AGG can develop. I mean, those 2 guys are intriguing. I know Harmon's not a speedy guy, but like Nate said, the taller you are, speed doesn't, really doesn't factor in as much. But I still think they need a boundary receiver. And I wouldn't mind. I know there's a lot of people that don't want Bateman at 19, but I'd be happy to get Bateman at 19 if we wanted to go in that direction.
I mean, I still think that we're looking at, wide receiver wise, we're still looking at, a potential, big man wide receiver and red zone opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about all this breakaway speed and everything, but, we still need that short field guy too. And, I'm not sure, what Harmon can do in that aspect, and AGG, I know zero about. So, what's your thoughts, Nate? I mean,
yeah. So with receiver, I talked about this before, but if they go after day 2, the probability of them hitting and being successful is really low. And then the other thing that's really predictive is if you have production at an early age in the NFL, right? So like Terry McLaurin, he kind of bucked that trend because he was awesome year 1. Those guys tend to go on and become very successful. Same with DK, same with AJ Brown, a lot of those guys. But I'm not very optimistic about any of the receivers outside of Samuel or McLaurin. I have very little confidence. The thing is, it's okay to be big, but you still have to be able to create separation, and you need to be able to create after the catch. And I think like Cam Sims can do that a little bit. He can kind of create after the catch, but he doesn't get any separation. He's a bad route runner. He's really like a wide receiver 5 on most NFL teams, but we just so happen to be very shallow at wide receiver. But and another thing with Samuel is like he played boundary receiver with Scott Turner when he was in Carolina. Scott Turner's like last year there. And it was because they didn't have Robbie Anderson then. So he played on the outside a lot more. And he really struggled, and it wasn't his fault. He led the NFL in air yards and completed yards, which means like they threw him the ball a ton deep, but they were always inaccurate passes and he couldn't convert on any of them. And the guy throwing him the ball was Kyle Allen, which is kind of funny. But he has the ability to line up everywhere, like you said, but I think he's going to be in the slot, and he's a guy in the slot that not like, like Jameson Crowder, he could create after the catch. He could create separation right away, but Crowder couldn't stretch the field vertically. Curtis Samuel can. He's really fast, and that's hard on a defense or a safety when you have a guy running up the seam who you have to worry about, and that splits the middle of the zone a lot of times too. So that's something you love. You can run 4 verts and have him running up the seam, and it creates so much space for your other guys to work around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to move on to I want to ask each of y'all your opinion on what do you want to see next, as far as, okay, for what Ron's done since he's got here. What do you think the next move is to point this franchise in the right direction? Zeke, I want to start with you.
Well, I mean, quarterback is always easy to put kind of center stuff on because it's so important.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think for me, the offensive line, it could use some more depth, quality depth. I mean, I can't, to me, we, drafting all the defensive linemen in the first round. I mean, I'm glad they did it. It was definitely, excited about each and every one, but I feel like the offensive line is going to have to be addressed because it won't really matter. It won't really matter who's quarterbacking back there if pass pro can hold up and allow these guys to get down the field.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith.
I think we just keep pushing forward. I mean, obviously the pieces are getting put together. They're not complete. I think the draft is going to tell a little bit on where our future is going to be, hopefully. I think that if they value these quarterbacks the way Nate is saying that all these NFL teams are valuing these quarterbacks, then I go get your guy. As long as you're not, giving up an entire market for it, go get your guy. Let's sit him. Let's roll with this bearded guy and just, have fun with it and see how it goes. And at least for me as a fan, I could say, all right, we drafted our future. It's coming and I can keep going. You don't draft our future though. I can't answer that question. I have no idea, but being a season ticket holder now, baby, I'm going to be there screaming anyways. And hopefully, taking numbers too, because people want to visit me out in FedEx parking lot.
Are you gonna have a big old tailgate? I know
some people are gonna want to fight, and some people are gonna want to hug them.
We should put a little boxing ring or octagon out there.
It's a love-hate thing.
Listen, anyone who wants to fight, we can do this for. I can't even keep a straight face. Anyways, no.
Yeah, the kind of people that talk shit are the kind of people that do nothing.
Listen, I'm going to have a good time. I love everybody. If you want to come and talk to me and I'll give you a beer, we can have a good time and go from there. If you don't want a beer, I'm going to ask you to kindly leave, and we'll see what happens from there. It is what it is. But I can assure you, Jesse, to answer your question, my boy John and I, and then when Zeke, and if you're showing up, it's $20 grill time, baby.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm playing. I live in Kansas City, so I've been to a few Chiefs games. I've never been to a Washington game ever. I lived in DC for a while, but I never got to go to a game. But I'm planning on going to the home opener this year, flying out there
Oh,
and just making it
nice.
a weekend. So, yeah, I'd love to make some rounds. I'll buy you all the beers. Like I'm gonna live it up when I'm there. I won't get in a fight with you because I'm super nice, and I don't know why
Right?
people would want to
Like,
fight each other. Like
I am
it makes
too.
no
It's
sense.
just, yeah, it's crazy. Like Washington fans out there fighting each other. I'm just like, whatever, man. Anyways, yeah, no,
Meet me out
absolutely.
back.
Hey, listen, yeah, I know, right?
Meet me out back.
Andy from the UK is going to be there.
Yeah, we're having a big old get
Oh,
together that 1st
We're gonna
game.
get shit faced.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, we get all of us get together, man. It's just going to be one good time, and I figured that this is why I figured this was the year that I was going to go in on season tickets, because this is an opportunity not only to have a good time watching my team, but I want to meet a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
Shit ton of people. I'm on Twitter and I do the things that I do, but in the end, when I meet these people, like they're like, oh, dude, you're not as bad as you are on Twitter. And I'm like, see, I'm a good guy. You just got to give me a chance is all, so I'm all for it, baby. I'm excited. I don't know about you guys.
Nate,
absolutely.
where do you?
It's a good time. It's a good time. That not last year, but I think the season before was the Cowboys game. Oh man, that was my Redskin game cherry popped. Finally seeing them beat Dallas. I mean, I was FaceTiming, Dallas, a couple friends that are Cowboys fans, FaceTiming them in the stadium. That was about as good a feeling as I've ever had leaving that fucking place. That beat down, and the way it ended too with the doinked field goal. Oh my God, what a game! That was fun.
That keeps us coming back
when we kick Dallas's ass. That's for sure. Nate, what direction, or what is there something that you'd like to see the team do to further drive us in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, they need to stay flexible, and I'll keep saying this, like they need to keep taking the value. Don't be afraid to make a move if you're comfortable with it. But I think big thing that's great with this draft, I'm sure you guys know this, like the three most deep positions in the draft besides quarterback are offensive line, offensive tackle, linebacker, and wide receiver. And those are three needs that we have.
Yeah.
And like, I'm big on tackle too, because I understand Cornelius Lucas had an awesome year. He was one of the best pass blockers in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But he's older. We've never seen that before. He doesn't have a track record of being successful. I think he's a lot more comfortable being a swing tackle. And we got to have a guy for the future. I mean, that's a premium position. And that's what I mean at 19. Would you really want to give up on a potential like 10-year starter at left tackle versus like a linebacker? And that's kind of the question. But I mean, there's a lot of good options out there. I think people just need to be patient and take it easy, and don't get so crazy with some of these projections out here, like saying you're going to win the division, you're going to win a bunch of playoff games. Be happy that we get to rebuild the right way and we're still competitive while we're doing it, because that's hard to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of my sentiments are the same. I just want to see them keep taking steps in the right direction. I'm okay if we have, the same record as we did last year, as long as we see the progress. And that's what we've been doing, excuse me, last off season. A lot of people thought Rivera was making some poor choices in the free agents that he was bringing. Well, guess what? He didn't, and it showed. Patience is key. Even though we've been patient for damn near 30 years, I think the light at the end of the tunnel is getting brighter, and it's all about that franchise quarterback, guys. It's all about that franchise quarterback. But even though there's not necessarily one available right this second, we're putting the pieces around it. So when we do find one, it'll be ready to rock and roll. It's there. We can't force the issue. Okay. We can't force a quarterback to be good. We can't force our future assets more than necessary to go get a potential. And when I say potential, I mean potential, because even though there's going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, that doesn't mean they're going to be 4 or 5 franchise quarterbacks, guys. The coaching staff has to be comfortable and has to truly believe that this is their guy and they want their guy, and we got to give them the room to be able to get their guy. Y'all guys got anything else?
Nope.
Nope.
You can
Nope.
meet me at the red zone lot. Meet me at the red zone lot. You want to fight?
Green lot,
You want to
motherfucker.
fight?
Oh
fight?
man,
You can fight me.
Yeah,
you can find me at the
I tell you
red zone
one thing's
lot.
for sure.
Fuck out of here.
Green lot, bitch. Green
I gotta
lot.
jump.
Oh man,
I gotta
that's
jump
not-
off
man,
here,
it's-
guys.
Yeah. All right,
Nate,
Nate, where can we find
It's
your
so
workout?
laughable
Yeah.
how like
Hold on,
immature
Zeke.
and
Hold on, Zeke.
childish
Zeke.
some people can be.
Hey, hold on, Zeke.
Hold on.
Hey, sorry, guys. I got to jump off here, but thanks for having me on. You guys can catch me on Twitter at JayhawkChalk, and nice chalking it up with you guys.
All right, appreciate you coming
All right,
on, Nate. Nate, I'll
See you,
I'll
Nate.
talk to you later.
See you guys.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
bro.
All right, Zeke, what were you saying, man?
I'm just I'm excited about. I really am excited about Logan Thomas.
Me too.
You know, I think he has a shot to. I mean, he can only improve, right? I mean, because he's only been playing tight end. What is this? This will be his third season, or
Yeah, this is
He
his
just
first
switched,
real
right?
opportunity as a time. I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I used to go see him play in Blacksburg, and he's a great athlete for a bigger guy, you know. And I was kind of stoked when he got drafted. I didn't think he'd ever turn out to be a great quarterback, but the move to tight end was a no brainer. You know,
Man, he
he's
looks like he
big.
could be a
He's
superstar.
physical as hell too.
You know what I think? You guys
What's
ready
that?
for this?
What?
This is what I think. You can meet me at the red zone lot. You can fight me at the red. Fuck out of here. You're not gonna do shit.
Zeke, what's your Twitter handle? Where can people find you at?
You can find me at the red
Haymaker
zone lot.
_Z.
That's
I
going to
didn't hear
be
what'd
it.
you say?
I was gonna say you can find me at the red zone lot. That's where I'm
Man,
gonna be at, and I'm gonna be chilling with all my homies. We're gonna be drinking $20 grill time, right? And if
Yeah,
there's
we're all
any
going to
tr-
be in trouble, right?
We're all gonna be in trouble.
We're all going to catch it.
all in trouble.
Hey,
Fuck
what
out
was
of
it?
here.
Wait, what was that
Take
shit
a
with
number,
you,
bitch.
with you
Everybody
drinking
comes for me.
them wine coolers, Keith?
What?
Those wine coolers? You've
Yeah,
been drinking
beer's
wine
trash.
coolers?
Beer's trash. Yeah, I've been drinking wine coolers. That's why I'm a little testy right now. I don't drink beer. Beer's trash. Blue Moon's all right. Blue Moon with some
Ugh.
steak, that's okay. What do you mean?
Man,
Ugh, I
Blue
can't do
Moon with
those
the orange is
IPAs.
really
Give
good.
me
and
a
I'm not
beer that
really
tastes
into
like a
that.
beer.
Like,
I'm
I'm
gonna
not
fight all
really
of
into
you.
that. But
I'm gonna fight all of you, and I'm gonna do it at the red zone lot too.
Meet me in the
Catch me
green.
there.
I park in the green lot. You can come find me in the green lot.
Well, you're gonna come find me in the red zone lot because that's where the party's at. And then anybody else,
Yeah,
who
the
wants
red
to come
zone lot
find me,
is
they
where
can
it goes
take a
down.
motherfucking number. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, shit.
Take a
All right.
number.
Listen, y'all take a number and
That's
take
Keith's corner
Keith's-
for you. Keith's
You can
corner
find
right here
Keith
at the end.
KG Skins 26
And at the red zone lot, take
and
a
at the
number, bitch.
red zone lot. That's going to be the title of our episode, the red zone lot.
That's
You
right.
can
went-
catch me
he's
at
ending it. He's ending it,
Jesse's24.
popping off. I love it.
If you got any hate mail, please direct it to Keith's DMs, and he will fucking fight all of you.
Take a
That's
number,
it.
bitch.
That's it for today's episode of Bar Talk, the Bleeding Burgundy podcast. We will catch you
Hashtag
on
red zone lot.
Tuesday. The red zone lot. Hail to the team, motherfuckers.
Hell.